Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai, and all our viewers. And shout out to our ever-active YouTube viewers on there. I love those guys and girls. All right, let's start with oil. Oil prices being weighed down by demand pressure, or rather lack of, from China and also Germany. So 73.22 for Brent. West Texas, a little bit of a divergence there. We've got Nigeria's benchmark. By the way, the president will be presenting the budget today in the legislature, so we'll look forward to that. Natural gas down. Quickly to Germany, just to give you some lights on the worries about what's going on with the weak numbers from China and Germany. So the IFO index, which looks at the business climate, I mean, it's been pretty low. Don't be fooled by the 84% number. I mean, this is something that should be well into the 90s. 84.7 is where it fell to in December from 85.6. The forecast was 85.6, so the forecast saw no change. As far as current expectations, it have really soured in terms of the business climate at 84.4. In November, it was 87. I subscribe to ING, and I get a lot of their analyst notes, and I had to share this with everybody. So ING, which is an asset manager, they said the only good thing about Germany's just released IFO index is that this is the final major macro indicator released this year. It's time to end the year that will go down as the second consecutive year of economic stagnation. Germany is really, really suffering, and this is the president of the IFO. We put out a quote in respect to the numbers that had just come out. Clement Fuest, who is the president of the research institute, said the weakness in the German economy has become chronic. We move to Asian markets. Mixed bag. Shanghai Composite Index was up. Kospi, Dr. Bati talked about this yesterday. Everybody's pretty much in a holding period. By the way, Bitcoin now has fallen to 103,000. So interesting, the volatility. The Nikkei 225 is really where the action is taking place. That's where all the Japanese autos, the main ones, your Toyota, your Honda, your Nissan are trading, and that was down, although Nissan shares climbed 23% on the big news of a merger between Toyota between Nissan and Honda. And you're looking at, on the left is Nissan's chief executive, Makoto Uchida. On the right is Honda's chief executive, Toshihiro Mibe. This was earlier in the year when they said they were going to get together and work on research. The companies have confirmed to the media that they're exploring a merger. So could they join forces? There's no final decision yet, but they have struggled. They've struggled in China, where in November, I think about 55% of all vehicles that were sold were either hybrids or electric vehicles, pure play battery or a mix of the two. Through the first 11 months of this year, 60% of passenger cars that were sold in China were made in China brands. So they've eaten the lunch of Honda, they've eaten the lunch of Nissan. Nissan announced 9,000 job cuts as part of a restructuring issue. Remember what happened with Carlos Ghosn back in 2018 when he escaped Japan in a private jet and was facing charges because of corporate governance issues. Honda has cut its own sales forecast. If the merger goes through, I think Honda sold about 4 million cars last year. Nissan did about 3.4. They would be third in terms of the biggest global automobile giants behind Toyota and Volkswagen. Speaking of Volkswagen, they also have their own issues in terms of unions and factory closings. All this is because of China and the big moves that China has made, pivoting to electric vehicles, and the fact that they're made in China brands are doing much better. Moving quickly to the US, we've been following this case. Do we have the same hair, me and this guy? Anyway, I shouldn't be associating myself with him. Lui Ming, he's been indicted on murder charges. Remember the healthcare CEO that was killed in New York, where we showed that video? 5 days, they used CCTV's face recognition technology. They found him, they've arrested him, he's their main suspect, and he's now, I think he's facing life in prison without parole if he is indeed found guilty. To the US, Dr. Bati talked about this a lot. We are going to be getting the rate decision from the Federal Reserve later today, the last rate decision of the year. It is expected that it will be a 25 basis point cut. However, people are asking questions. You see where Bitcoin is going, asset prices, the stock market. Do you want to be cutting rates to fuel inflation at this time, or do you want to hold? We could get a surprise from the Fed, maybe a hold, but a lot of people, I have a guest later on this morning, maybe I'll play his clip tomorrow, where he's also questioning whether or not we should have more rate cuts at a time where inflation could be climbing. Speaking of rates, You know I had to talk about this. My darling Morocco, my darling Casablanca. They cut rates yesterday, 25 basis points to 2.5%. Only the second rate cut this year. They cut for the first time in June, for the first time in 4 years. In September they held, and now they've cut again. Look at headline CPI, 0.7%. The Moroccan dirham trades about 9 to 10 to the dollar. Very, very stable. Their eye is on the 2030 World Cup. They will be hosting it, of course, with Portugal and I think with Spain. First time coming to North Africa. So they want to really try to juice up, borrowing. The tourism, 15.5 million tourists that came in this past year into Morocco. I mean, you know the story. To Nigeria. As I mentioned, the president will be presenting the budgets, remember, and it's even good that Dr. Abati talked about this yesterday. Remember, Dr. Abati said that Nigeria is spending more money than she is bringing in, and the expenditure outweighs income, which means we're going to be dealing with a budget deficit. No news there. I mean, Germany is facing the same thing, France, and so on and so forth. But the question is, where is Nigeria going to get her income from? And let me bring up a sector that Rufai has talked about ad nauseum. We have KPMG coming on the show later today, the head of transactions for KPMG West Africa. They're going to be talking about this report, doing deals in Sub-Saharan Africa 2024. There was a particular table that jumped out at me from this report, and I'll be talking about it with our guests. The top 10 deals. I want you all to take a look at this. Of the biggest deals that took place in Sub-Saharan Africa, and this is in 2023, if you look at the sectors, right? Mining was 4 out of 10, so 40%. Oil and gas was 3 of them. It dominated it. The remaining 3 was technology, telecommunications, renewables, and leisure. South Africa absolutely dominates this list. You can see, in fact, South Africa dominates this list to the point to where at the bottom of the screen in leisure, it was a South African company that took 100% take in another South African company, right? They are there in oil and gas. They're there in mining. They're all over the place. Nigeria is missing. I know I don't want to seem like I'm picking on our minister here. But you did look. Do you know that whenever Nigeria goes on a road show to talk to investors, to raise money in the bond market, we always talk about how, hey, our mining sector is really rich and we've got a lot of resources from cobalt and but the numbers don't show that you are making any big deals in the mining sector. So something really has to be done. Okay, do I have time for this clip? I've played this clip before, I'm sorry. Let me play it one more time. An analyst that, again, talked about the mining sector.
We also need to be able to get mining up. Like I said, the analysis of the GDP report by the MBS that just came out today is still hovering around 3%. We should be doing 7 to 10% for mining and quarrying. We can do that once we get the majors in. But how do you get the majors in? The fiscal incentives have to be set right. Security has to be set in stone. So there's a lot of governance from policy to security governance. And we're not seeing a lot of that. Kudos to the Ministry of Mining, especially Kayode Fayemi's time. They did a lot of heavy lifting when it came to policy frameworking. And we're seeing the benefits of policy frameworking because whether we like it or not, the mining sector is at the highest activity rate. Anybody who has spoken with anybody in mining, they'll tell you just that. The problem is the insecurity and the lack of structure. It's affecting the majors from seeing the mining space as attractive.
That's it.
I hear. Yeah. He's not correct. The problem is not insecurity with mining. It's not lack of structure. It's corruption. I've sent you a report by Premium Times. Read that report on illegal mining going on and smuggling going on in Bandi community in Kwara, and how they said some police officers are also collecting the money.
Anyway, we've run out of time. That was made clear earlier on.
Thank you.